गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Namaskaram to all and welcome to the next series, the next session in the Bharatiya Darshana Shastravali series. This session is going to be on the concept of God or Ishvara in the Indian philosophical systems. And to take us through this interesting session, we have a great speaker who actually needs no introduction, who is known to many of us, Dr. Srinivas Varkhedi ji. Varkhedi ji, welcome to the Shastravali series.
Namaskar.
Dr. Srinivas Varkhedi ji is the Vice Chancellor of the Kavikula Guru Kalidas Sanskrit University in Nagpur. He is also the Professor and the Dean of Shastra Faculty in the Karnataka Sanskrit University, Bangalore. He is a member of various bodies such as the Academic Council of the RSVP Tirupati, the Board of Management in Chinmaya University, and many more. He is also part of the NAAC Guidelines Preparation Committee for the Sanskrit Universities. He has more than 30 publications in national and international journals to his credit. He's been awarded several awards, the notable among them being the Maharshi Badarayana Vyasa Samman by the President of India and the Swami Chinmayananda Research Gold Medal. This is a very, very short profile of what I can share of Varkhedi ji in this session. There is many more. You can Google him and find out. Varkhedi ji, again, I once again welcome you to this session.
Bhaktya stutya viraktya bhajadamalachanam Kshitya mattelpa bhakte shapi pujana kratau thatya bhutyajakaya kartre dhartre thahatre haya mukhaharaye mutra patre namaste kasmai namaste kasmai jidasmin dhritakatha vismratau smart. Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. On the auspicious day of Guru Purnima, my humble pranams, namaskarams to all gurus sitting in front of me. Saraswatyas tattvam kavis hridayakhyam vijayate. It is said that the Saraswati resides in two parts, Sahridaya and Kavi. Similarly, Guru is a Tattva. Guru Tattva resides in two parts, Acharya Pura Rupam, Ante Vasutra Rupam. Therefore, in our Indian tradition, Guru is not a person. He is just a source of knowledge. Sometimes, for a teacher, the student becomes source of knowledge. For a student, teacher becomes source of knowledge. Therefore, Guru resides everywhere. Guru is Vyapta. In Bhagavatam, Avadhuta says, the whole universe is my Guru. I learn from everything. I learn from everybody. Even in Mimamsaka tradition, we find that teacher Kumarila identifies his own pupil, his own disciple, Prabhakara as his guru. Because at one instance, Prabhakara corrects him. Prabhakara corrects his own teacher. Therefore, I bow to the Guru beside in all my Shrotragana of the day. Today, we are dealing with an interesting topic. We are holding a samvada about very fascinating topic, God. Many of us have our own concept of God. We enjoy the experience of God. Sometimes we doubt whether God exists. Even Astikas many a times questioned. Even in Puranas, even in Mahabharata, there are certain questions. Great Astikas sometimes doubted during their difficult times whether God exists. So these doubts and these kinds of objections in the mind are due to the misconception about the God. What is God? Who is God? Let us try to understand the doctrine of God through the various Bharatiya darshanas. There are three aspects I want to place before you. The one aspect, the very simple three aspects have been reflected in all Indian philosophies. Of course, what is the evidence for the existence of God? All darshanas, all Indian darshanas univocally say, give a justification that the universal itself is an evidence. The phenomenal world, the world that we see, the world that we perceive, the world that we experience, the world that we live in is the evidence for the existence of God. What else is required? So here, three aspects are very important. Showing the world, showing the universe, every darshanika will take you to the concept of God. Three relations are very important here. We will later elaborate this. The one is, every karya has a karan. Every effect, phenomena of effect has a karan, cause. Without cause, you cannot see an effect. So this relation leads to the concept of God, number one. Because this universe is an effect, therefore we should accept the existence of the God. The second idea that takes us to the God is Bimba Pratibimba Bhava. The whole universe is described as Pratibimba. It is just reflection of something. It is just chaya. It follows something. If it is a chaya, if it is a mirror image, if it is a pratibimba rather, so I use the Sanskrit words because everybody is familiar. I need not use any English words for them. Pratibimba follows the bimba. Without bimba, you cannot see a pratibimba. The universe is a pratibimba, therefore we must have a bimba which is the controlling point of the Pratibimba. This is second point. The Bimba Pratibimba Bhava is second point. The third relation that leads us to the God is Virodha. The universe is imperfect. We know that this universe is imperfect, this universe is incomplete, it is apurna and imperfect. Therefore, there must be something which is purna and perfect. Without the existence of purna and perfect or an infinite, you cannot find a finite, incomplete and imperfect. The imperfection of this world leads us to the concept of God, that God is perfect. God is perfect. Therefore, the relation between aparipurnata and paripurnata, this sort of virodha, and bimba pratibhava and karyakanabhava, these three relations that we see in the world are applied in the universe, then we get the God. The concept of God comes through the relation of the universal relation of these three concepts: bimba pratibimba bhava, karyakarana bhava, and aparipurna and paripurnata. So with this introduction, I take you to some of the conversation on the God. And there is one interesting story. I begin with this story. There is a great Indian thinker, Udayanacharya, we call, in the Nyaya tradition. Udayanacharya has fought against Buddhist. The entire Buddhist philosophy, when it proposed, it negated the whole idea of Atman, whole idea of self and Ishvara, and the concept of Ishvara. Then he was the first to give a suitable, tenable reply to the Buddhist by authoring many texts on the justification for Atma Siddhi. He writes Atma Siddhi, Ishvara Siddhi, and these works, basically Atma Tattva Viveka is one of the wonderful and very tough work authored by Udayana, is very famous. In the Atma Tattva Viveka, he establishes the existence of God through the reason. And he has given 9 reasons for as the justification for the existence of God. And there this is it is a story, very interesting story. One day he, after writing Atma Tattva Viveka, he wins a couple of Buddhists, and then he goes to Jagannath Puri, where Lord Jagannatha gives darshanam, and he wanted darshanam of Lord Jagannatha, and he went there. But all of a sudden, when he enters into the temple administration covers, closes the doors of the temple, and he will not get the opportunity of having darshan of God, Jagannath. And immediately Udayanacharya got angry. He says, it is very bad. He challenges the God. That is the guts of a bhakta. He challenges the God. He says, Aishwarya Madamattosi. Aishwarya Madamattosi. Mam avijñāya tisthasi. Punarbodhe samayate madadhina tavasthiti. Oh God, you don't know what I did for you. Aishwarya Madamattosi. You are now matta. You don't understand the value of a logician. And you say, Mam avajnaya tishtasi. You are ignoring me. Don't do that. Why? If you do that, if again Buddhists come back and rejects your existence, nobody will be there to protect you. Madadhina tavasthitihi. Your existence is in my hand. Therefore, please don't show me the door, open the door and give me darshanam. So this shloka tells us that the 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 work done by logicians in India, Nayayikas in India, to to give justification, to establish the existence of God, even after the rejections, many rejections are by Buddhists and other schools of thought, has given a rebirth for the God. So if you see the history of Indian philosophy for last 1,000 years, we may have so many different ideas about the God, but the very existence of God was justified, was established by the logicians, Indian logicians. So let me go to...
Sir, just one point. You could just repeat that verse, sir?
Yes. Aishwarya madamattosi. Mam avijnaya tishtasi. Mam avijnaya tishtasi. Punarbauddhe samayate. Upasthiteshu bauddheshu is another reading. Punarbauddhe samayate madadhina tavasthitihi. Tava, your sthiti, existence is madadhina. It is dependent on me. So if I don't do that, if I don't protect you, your existence will be rejected by others. So this shloka, is very interesting. I don't know whether it is a real story or not, but it is quoted by many in the history. So now let us go to the concept of what is this in India. Today we have concept of God like God is a Shiva. Shiva is our God. Someone would say Vishnu is our God. Devi Durga is our God or goddess. Ganapati is God. So God is worshipped in many forms with many names. Shiva, Vishnu, Surya, Chandra. So all these are different gods. So there is a concept in Puranas, Trayastrimshat Koti Devata. So the 3 million gods. So the gods are in plural or God is one? This question may arise. So many are having the fear of God. God will punish you. God, if you do some mistake, some sin, God will punish you. And God will take you to the Naraka. This sort of statements we see. And we also generate some sort of fear in the minds of young people, young boys and girls. So they may sometimes hate the gods. So whether gods in plural or God is one. So the young minds ask these questions. So somebody one day, my daughter was telling me that one day she went to a temple and bowed her head to one god, and she thought that no, I should first bow to the head to the another god, otherwise he will get angry. So this sort of misconceptions are there in the minds. Then what is the God? And today I'm not dealing with the idea of God. God is not an idea. It is not kalpana. Okay. First, we must understand it is not an idea. And I'm not dealing with the concept of God. God is not just a concept. Okay. So God is a reality. God is a doctrine. So when we propose a doctrine in our ancient system, first we should define it. What is it? How it operates? What is the use of it? What are the pramanas? Therefore, for me, God is prameya. Ishvara is a prameya. So I use the word prameya instead of concept or idea. Okay, idea may have some imagination and it doesn't require any justification. A concept needs a description, but a prameya needs a pramana. So if I can give you pramana, pramana means evidence or proof, a very loose sense. I know I'm using these terms in a very loose sense, but pramana is the source of knowledge. If I give you the source of knowledge, and if you get the knowledge of God, and God becomes prameya for you. Therefore, we are interested in understanding a prameya called God. Okay. So therefore, I am dealing with a prameya, Ishvara prameya. I am dealing with Ishvara prameya. This is what my pratigna in the beginning. So how God is described, how God is, Ishvara is described, what is the term that is used to describe the God? I should say, God is not a, somebody may say that God may be a Purusha. God is described in the form of Purusha also, but God is not a Purusha. The term to describe the God is seen in the Upanishad is Brahman. It is an Apumsakalinga. It is in neutral gender. So God is not a Purusha or nor a Stri. Therefore, better to use this term Brahman. So Brahman is described, that is in the Upanishad in this way. Satyam Jnana Manantam Brahma. The three terms are given as the description of God, Brahman. What are those three terms? Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. So let us try to understand these terms so that we can understand our concept of God will be very clear. See, this definition is very profound definition in terms of mutually these terms are not describing different entities. Okay, when you find three words, these three words together attempt to define one single Akhanda Tattva, that is Brahman. What is Brahman? The word Brahma is big, it is huge, it is large, it is so vast. The idea of vastness, bigness, largeness is called Brahman. Brahanto hyasmin gunaha, Upanishad says, all good virtues are itself Brahman. So all good virtues reside in this concept. So this is explained with three terms, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. What is Satyam? Satyam is nothing but truth or existence. Jnanam means consciousness or knowledge. Anantam means limitless. There is no limitation. Limitless or eternal or all pervasive. Better to take it as limitless. Anta means limit. Ananta means limitless. The tattva which is not delimited by something, that is called Brahman. So this concept of this definition of Brahman is to be understood by all of us who want to understand the concept of Brahman. So the another term that is used in Upanishad is Prajnanam Brahma. Another term is used Atma. Ayam Atma Brahma. Atma, the term Atma is used. In later darshanas, we find Purusha or Parama Purusha. Sometimes in Purushottama is also used in Bhagavad Gita. Ishvara is another term that is used by all. And different systems of philosophy, for example, in Kashmir Shaivism, Abhinavagupta uses the term Shiva or Parashiva. And in Vaishnava darshanas, we get the term Vishnu. In Vishnu Sahasrama, we find all names ascribed to the same Brahman. What is it? So, I don't go into the details of these Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, but to some extent we need to understand the idea of limitation comes from three aspects. One is time. If there is a time limit, for example, a person who takes birth on a particular date and who dies on a particular date has a limitation of two points of the time, 2 points of the time. There are two references. One reference is birth time, the another reference is death time. So any object that takes birth in the world, in this universe, has two limitations, ending point and starting point. These two, the time gives this termination. So these terminal points are the antas. Brahman is beyond this. Time cannot bind Brahman. Therefore, it is eternal. It is Ananta. Kalataha Ananta. And another delimiter is Desha. The location or dik or the space. It gives a limitation. For example, I exist in a particular place. I cannot exist everywhere because my body has a limitation. My body has limited me. So the every object in the universe has one point of direction and another point of direction. Therefore, this is limited by space and direction and desha. This is called deshataha anta, santa. So if there is no deshataha santa, I mean everywhere you find there is no limitation of the space can stop Brahman to exist, then Brahma becomes Ananta. It is eternal and all pervasive. The third point is Vastutaha atha Gunataha Ananta. So there are two different definitions are given. Gunataha Ananta. If you find the virtues, our virtues are Santa. You can count 1, 2, 3, 4. There ends the matter. But in God, all good virtues are unlimited, virtues are unlimited in all aspects. Therefore, Gunataha Ananta or Vastutaha Ananta. An object by itself, by its identity, has some limitations. For example, this computer has some limitation. My specs has some limitation. My hands have some limitation because they can only operate in a particular form, in a particular way. They have limited strength and powers, and they have their own identity of functioning. For example, hands can do certain operations, and eyes can see, and ears can hear, and my touch can feel the touch. But all these indriyas cannot do everything. Therefore, these have got some identity. But Brahman does not have identity. He is all. He is Sarvam. Therefore, nothing other than this exists in the world in that sense, because everything is pervaded, everything is of course is Brahma Swarupa. So nothing in the universe that is different from the Brahman. Therefore, in other sense, there is everything is dependent on Brahman. This is what said by Vastutaha Anantam. So therefore, Anantam and Jnanam is conscious. And the third point is Satyam, existence. The only existence is given by Brahman, and all the consciousness in this universe is manifested from the Brahman. Therefore, the whole idea of Brahman is exhibited with these three terms: Jnanam, Satyam, and Anantam. So this Brahman is Yato Vacho Nivartante Aprapya Manasasa. All speeches return from the Brahman without completely describing it. No descriptions can completely describe, can completely make you understand the concept of Brahman. Brahman you should experience. You should really get the experience of Brahman. No words can describe that Brahman. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasa. So this whole idea of Upanishadic Brahman, we can see the different aspect of this Brahman is different aspects are exhibited in different darshanas. In one darshana, you will find one aspect. In another darshana, another aspect is taken. But if we see, the all Indian darshanas have tried to understand the concept of this Brahman and have tried to imbibe and have tried to fit this concept into their philosophy. So what I can see is only one or a few aspects of Brahman are described in different darshanas. Therefore, sometimes we may feel that the idea of God in Indian darshanas are incomplete. No, because they have taken one angle of it. In different, even Vaishnava, Shaiva, and all these darshanas have taken one side of Brahman and described them. Therefore, we feel that this is incomplete. Yes, yato vacho nivartante. No words, no speeches can completely describe the return. Therefore, all these darshanas sometimes seem to be incompetent to really describe entirety of the Brahman. Therefore, one should not raise unnecessary objections on any of these darshanas. So they are together complete. Therefore, I am not justifying one idea from one darshana and this is the whole idea of God and this is what God means. No. Upanishadic God is the complete idea and others are really dealing with the God to some extent to really show the relevance of God within their system. For example, some darshanas may not need the existence of God at all to describe the world. For example, if you see the Sankhya Darshana is called as Nirishvara Sankhya. Why Nirishvara Sankhya? Because the attempt of Sankhya is to describe the universe, how it functions, what is the nature of this Prakriti, how it manifests as the world, how it manifests as the universe. So what is the idea of Karya Karana Bhava? So this whole process is described by Sankhyas and they needed an idea called Purusha for the manifestation. Of course, Purusha exists. Purusha is Jiva, exists within the Prakriti. That explains everything. Therefore, within their system, they really did not see any relevance of the God. Therefore, they said, God is not necessary in our system. And slowly, if you look at the Bhagavata Darshan, Bhagavata Purana, when Kapila Muni teaches Sankhya Tattva, Sankhya philosophy, Sankhya Darshana to his mother, in Tritiya Skandha of Bhagavatam, you can see the detailed description of Sankhya Darshana with the reference of God. So he says very clearly, there is a Paramapurusha. The concept of Paramapurusha is to be accepted, and Seshwara Sankhya you can see in the Bhagavatam. So this is the, I don't see it is evolution. So people would say sometimes first Sankhyas came up with an idea of Nirishwara Sankhya. Then slowly they got converted into Seshwara Sankhya because yoga philosophy influenced them. They demanded for the existence of God for their dhyana, for the purpose of dhyana. Therefore, God was needed and he got introduced into the system. No, I don't agree with this sort of evolution of Indian darshanas because I believe in, there is a great statement by philosophers, Samaya anadi kalato vrittaha samayahi pravahata. All these darshanas are continuous and there is no starting point or ending point for all these different ideas, different darshanas. So we see the seed of Buddhist darshana, Buddha darshana in the Upanishads. Asadva idamagra asit. Only Asad was existing. Asat existed before the Srishti. How all this possible? This is possible only when all these ideas are continuous. And sometimes they come up and they show up in the world, and they are succeeded by other darshanas, and other darshanas come up. So this is a cycle. See, Samaya Chakra. So therefore, we need not, because I believe that Kala is a chakra and Itihasa is a chakra, and this Samaya Chakra is also, and darshanas go like this in the form of circular. Therefore, I don't believe in that sort of evolution idea. Ideas are evolved, ideas are developed, new ideas are introduced. No, I don't agree with this. So, with this introduction, I just quote some of the quotations before I close my introduction to the God. Eko Devaha Sarva Bhuteshu Gudha. I think this statement does not require any translation. In Shvetashvatara Upanishad, this shloka, Eko Deva, only one God. Swatantra, Eka, Swatantra, Eka, no plural. Okay, there are no many gods. So there are so many. There are no 100 gods. Only one God. Sarva Bhuteshu Gudha. He is inside of all these bhutas. Sarva Vyapi, he is all pervasive. Sarva Bhutantaratma, he is Antaryamin. Karmadhyakshaha, he is Sakshi of all these karmas, our deeds. Sarva Bhutadhivasa, he is the Ashraya, he is the abode, he is the support. Sakshi, witness. Cheta, Kevalo Nirgunascha, he is Nirguna. So all these virtues are described. How come he becomes Nirguna? Today morning you might have heard the concept of Prakriti, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas in the Sankhya Darshana. This God is beyond all these trigunas. There is no Sattva because Purusha is bound by these trigunas. As you see, Purusha is inside the body, who is bound by all these trigunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. But the God, Paramapurusha, always is beyond these trigunas. He is transcended these trigunas. Trigunas cannot bind him, cannot touch him. Therefore, he is called Nirguna. So coming to this, the entire all Upanishads and the Vedas, Yona Pita Janita, Yo Devanam Namadha Eka Eva. Only one God who possesses all the names of all gods. You may enumerate n number of gods, but all these names ultimately go to him. And Sarvadeva Namaskaraha Keshavam Pratigacchati. All your pranams to go to only one God. So I don't go into the details. I wanted to show you the 9 reasons that are given by, because in India, philosophy, one should not say that we believe in God. Belief means we just trust. We conceive the idea of God and we believe in God. No, we did not believe in the God. We established the existence of God. There are reasons. So the Indian idea of God is very rational. So it has nothing to do with the Shruti or Smriti or any Puranas. No. Therefore, we find a great deal of Udayanacharya for giving justifications for the existence of God. In the Atmatattva Viveka, he says there are 9 reasons to believe in the God. He says, Karya Yojana Dhrityadehe. I don't think this quoting this shloka may not be maybe very useful for all the audience, but one can note this. There are efforts done by our ancient philosophers without giving Shruti Pramana. They try to establish the existence of the God. So in Yoga Sutrakara, ultimately he defines the God in these terms. Klesha karma vipakashaihi aparamrishtaha. The Supreme Being who is not touched, who is untouched by this klesha, all these troubles of the universe, and karma, our deeds, merits and demerits, and vipaka, the result of it, our body, etc. And this is how God is described in our ancient darshanas. And in Puranas, we definitely find one more idea. This comes from basically Brahma Sutras, Janmadyasya yataha. Yataha asya jagataha janmadi. The God is that which is the source of generation of all these universe. So this is how the God or Ishvara or Brahman is described. That Brahman or God is there everywhere in the world, in the universe. Therefore, this universe is called Ishavasyam. This is what? Ishavasyam. Everything is pervaded by Ishvara. And Ishvara only can see everything, can perceive everything, and can guide us to the moksha. This is what Indian philosophies describe the Brahman. I now stop here and I take some questions. We will discuss this matter in detail.
Namaskaram, Varkidi. I think a very beautiful exposition of the concept of God, Ishvara, in a very unique way. I should say that way. So we have a few questions, Varkidi, from the participants. The first question, Varkadeji, is if God is perfect, how is the universe that He created, the Pratibimba, imperfect?
Yes. You don't mix up these three relations, okay? First of all, I should say, don't mix up these three relations. Karya and Karana, when I gave one first relation, no? From Karya, we are going to the Karana, okay? And second, we believe that this is Pratibimba, therefore we are going to Bimba, okay? Then third one is, since we experience this is imperfect, therefore there should be something which is perfect, otherwise this imperfect thing cannot exist, okay? So incomplete, therefore if this is incomplete, opposite side should exist. This is logically I'm telling. So now the question is, you are saying that why complete God created the incomplete thing, okay? So one thing, there are two questions. There is no relation between these three, okay? Your question is independent, okay? You should say that Bimba is perfect and Pratibimba always imperfect, okay? We have seen that. Mirror image need not be, our image or our picture need not be the perfect as we are, okay? Bimba and Pratibimba will have some differences. This one we should understand. And secondly, he is Karta. See, Karta, he is complete, okay? He is complete. His Srishti is also complete. We cannot reach it. His Srishti, we cannot completely digest or understand, therefore we see incompleteness in this. Because our look is incomplete. See, when I have a small window, I can see only small thing. When God looks at the world, it is totally complete for him. Because it is, you can see from his perspective, this is complete. Who knows? We are looking at this because we have some window, small window, therefore we can see only this much, therefore we see this is incomplete and imperfect. But there is something which is beyond this. Therefore, I would say, because this is God's creation, this is really perfect and we don't understand it. This is my perception. Second point, he may be perfect, even if you take this is imperfect, he may be perfect, but he is, whatever the source he has used to create this. For example, clay he has used to create this world. That clay may be imperfect. If the clay is imperfect, the creator is not responsible for that. The clay is imperfect, therefore the effect or the creation out of this clay should also be imperfect. The creator is not a problem there. Creator could be complete and the creation can be incomplete.
In this point, Varkadeji, actually, you brought a very critical point when you spoke about the clay. So naturally, we speak about this upadana, nimitta, the person who is creating, what is he using it to create, and the creation. In many darshanas, they assume that the Lord himself became everything.
Yeah.
So in that kind of case also, but in those darshanas, would they still believe that the creation is also perfect then?
Yes.
Because,
yes. See, therefore, in Kashmira Shaivism, Abhinavagupta very clearly said, for him, the whole universe is very, very, very Shiva Swarupa. Therefore, you cannot see any imperfection in the creation, because this creation is so great, so incredible. So we cannot, really ascribe any virtues of imperfection in the creation at all.
Great work, Kiriji. The next one is, now commonly when you talk about God today, in the context today, you naturally associate with a particular name, as you already mentioned about somebody says Shiva, somebody says Vishnu or Krishna and all these aspects. Do you think it is a later interpolation because of the Puranas and bringing the Devatas with Brahman and all these concepts getting mixed?
No. For this reason only I said Samayahi Pravahata. This is nothing is added and interpolated. I should say Yo Devanam Namadha Eka Eva. So the God, he is the possessor of all names and he is the only one. So the Rigveda is saying very clearly. So the Puranas are describing that. And Puranas are not interpolations. So they are just description, one angle. That's what I said. One Purana, Vishnu Purana, may be focusing on one aspect of the God, that is Srishtikartritva. Then you need not worry about it. No? See, because when I take picture of Himalaya, okay, photograph of Himalaya, I can only capture one angle. I cannot, because of limitation of my photography, my camera. Therefore, that need not be the imperfection of the God or interpolation or something, interpretation of the Himalayas. This is just like capturing the one angle of the God. Puranas are like that.
So I think this is a very beautiful point, Varkadeji, you mentioned, because you're saying that one Brahman, right? Different angles were captured, like you typically quote the story of the elephant and the blind man and those kind of things. So you are capturing one aspect of that Brahman. Those people who liked that aspect, they started following that aspect.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Upasana is only possible only from one angle. Upasana is, you see, when you approach to a category or an entity which is all pervasive, because because of my limitations, I can only approach in from one angle. I cannot approach from all angles. That's my limitation.
Right. So even when we look at the Samhita Bhaga, when we speak about Devatas, you would say that these are also being described as different aspects of that one single entity, right? Like when you say Indra or Agni or Varuna.
No. One thing I should make it very clear. So we need not deny the existence of Indra or Varuna. Okay, we need not deny that. But Brahmanik Brahmaruposau Shivecha Shivarupataha Indra Indrarupataha. So he is everywhere. Okay, one God exists, reside everywhere, and he is the source of all power. And Indra is operating, taking the power from the God. Therefore, Indra exists independently. Indra need not be the same God. Indra is only embodiment of one aspect of God. Okay, Indra is like any other Devata, and any Purusha can attain the level of Devata. And he can perform as a Devata. For example, somebody becomes Prime Minister, right? And he will get the power and he will operate in the form of Prime Minister. He is a citizen. Ultimately, he is a citizen and he becomes president, he becomes a Prime Minister, and he operates within that power. Similarly, any Jiva can become Indra and Varuna. But he is taking power from the God.
Also, Varkadeji, when you also find these definitions when you speak about Bhagavan, they say that 6 attributes have to be there. Does this also link to the Brahman aspect, or it is to a later aspect of him as a Devata, or a specific aspect of the Brahman is being spoken about?
No. See, all these Aishwaryas are described in Upanishads also. Okay. Bhagavan means Shad Aishwarya is, Aishwarya means it is the powers, various powers. So all these various powers are described in Upanishads also. And but we need not say that this is limited to 6. Okay. So sometimes to make one thing complete, I may count 6. Okay. So I can divide, for example, I tell you, I can divide a circle into 6. Okay. Then circle can be divided into 6 parts and I can really view it and it is complete. And you need not worry about it. So I'm not describing the incomplete circle. So it is divided in 6 parts. That's all. This, for my understanding purpose, I should divide, I should really see like that. But God is not limited with that. Okay. Circle is complete, 360 degrees. But I can really divide it into 6 pieces.
Right. And also, Srinivasji, I think the point that you emphasized in the last few minutes is that Brahman that is being spoken about in the Upanishads as that existent reality, the different darshanas have chosen to take that concept or not take that concept depending upon how they want to explain
Yes.
the creation of the universe or other things. So them accepting or not accepting does not deny
Yes.
the existence what is mentioned in the Vedanta or the Upanishads.
Yes.
So this is what I think we are trying to arrive at.
Yes. Yes.
Great. And even you mentioned Srinivasji about the Buddhists, but probably in later time even they started taking Buddha also as God. So automatically it starts becoming the concept of God doesn't cease to exist at any point of time. You always need that. I think that's a great point. So these are the different questions that we have had. The other question, Srinivasji, is also the functions of God. I think this also you can relate to, you mentioned about looking at God from different angles. So depending upon the angle you're looking at, probably you define the function of God based on that, is it?
No, Brahma Lakshana is given in terms of Srishti, Sthiti, Laya and all that. Okay. The God creates the world, and why this Lakshana is given very prominently is because the creator should know all the causes of the universe, okay, causal objects of the universe, and therefore he should also possess the knowledge, he should have an idea, and he should have the potency. I mean, he should be potent enough to execute that Srishti. All this ultimately leads us to understand he is very powerful. Okay, because this. So Srishti is not. Srishti is given just to understand one aspect of the God. It is not this complete description. Okay, so Srishti, similarly Laya and Niyamana. And all these different aspects of the world, different functions of the world are ultimately ascribed to the God. Okay. So therefore we call him Srishtikarta, we call him Layakarta, we call him Niyojanakarta, we call him Bandhaka because he gives us the body, therefore he binds us, okay, through this body. And he is the Mochaka, ultimately he gives us the Mukti also, because he breaks this body and other koshas inside, and he takes out this jiva, and he either you, whatever way, whether you believe in Advaita or in Dvaita, ultimately God is required. Okay, Ishvara exists. Okay, either in the form of Nirguna Brahman or in the form of Seshvara. Ishvara exists for all. So in this one aspect, nobody, will have any differences of opinions. No different opinions. Everybody will come to one conclusion. So
I think this is great, Srinivasji. I think you have very beautifully summarized the few facts. That first thing is the existence, as you very clearly put it. It is not a kalpana. It is a reality. You may call that by different names.
Yes.
Right? You refer to it as Brahman, which is probably the most beautiful definition that you can have to that higher power. But then later darshanas and later people have called it by different names that suit their particular darshanas. But without that concept, you cannot do away with that concept, or you cannot do away with that reality. No, I wouldn't say even concept, that reality, you cannot do away with that. I think a wonderful session, Srinivasji, an enlightening session. And there have been also a few people who have been asking, how do you present this to the children of today?
Yes.
How do you take this concept to the children?
It is not so difficult. Really, it is not so difficult. The children are really curious to know. And the curiosity of children is really we should utilize that. Whatever we tell them, so everything need not be explained through the reason or justification. Initially, we can really, give an emotion touch for that. That's why our ancient Puranic stories, how Bhakta Prahlada saw his own God. So beautiful story. So to make children appreciate the concept of God, better use the story of Prahlada. I would say don't go with any big reasons. Okay, just describe the beautiful story of Prahlada. And Dhruva, how he found God, how he went and did some tapas and perceived the God and had darshan of God. Dhruva. All these stories are really wonderful and incredible stories, and they really make the children to really digest the idea of God. Okay, and then slowly we can tell them. So this is not the limitation of God. God can be personified, but He is beyond that. Slowly. So this is how we should take them towards God. We cannot, all of a sudden, we cannot say the abstract idea of God cannot really go into the tiny minds of young children. We should make them, emotionally, we should take them to the, how God Himself, all Krishna stories, how God makes His mother, see the world in His mouth. This is so simple story, but his mind need not confine to the idea of Krishna. Idea of Krishna is so beautiful, so touchy, but that takes him to the concept of God. That leads him to the God, idea of God. Okay, so many times people say this, that Krishna, why Krishna should be introduced as God? Why not, I say, why not? So Krishna is a starting point, and he is the embodiment of God. Why not? So that is not a limitation. Okay. So he is the entry point. Krishna story is the entry point. The Prahlada story is entry point. And we definitely, so I also enjoyed Narasimha Avatar. And now I really enjoy how he is beyond all these forms. So God is beyond all forms. Therefore he can become Narasimha also.
No, absolutely, Srinivasji. I think the only argument which people typically then start making is we bring in this constraints of Desha Kala. So he was also somebody who existed in history. But your point is so valid that you are trying to give an entry point to a child. So for the child, the understanding is only up to that level, that he understands somebody who lived and who created this magic.
And with relation.
Yes.
You can understand only with relation. Okay.
Correct.
So this Adhikari Bheda concept should be used. There are Mandadhikaris and then Ajnadhikaris. And therefore it is very much, very clearly said in Upanishad, for all these Mandadhikarins, Pratima is acceptable. Okay, but Pratima is not God. It is very clearly said, Na Pratike Nahi Saha. He is not the God. Pratima is just an idea of God. Okay, it is a sign of God. It is Sanketa, like Rashtradhwaja. Rashtradhwaja is Sanketa for nation. But where do I give my respect to the nation? I cannot stand and give in my home. So I can give my respect to the nation only with a sign. So that Rashtradhwaja need not be the nation. Rashtradhwaja is the representation of the nation. Similarly, the Pratika is just a representation of the God. I can salute to the Pratika, and Pratika is just a door, a window to the God.
Absolutely, Srinivasji. Absolutely. It was a fantastic exposition, fantastic lecture. I think all the listeners, participants would agree with this. Dr. Mahulikar ma'am, if you could say a few words.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Srinivas Varkhedeji, for an amazing exposition of God. Just to supplement what you said, from abstract to concrete. Abstract, I think I am reminded of Tajjalan in the Shariraka Bhashya of Shankaracharya while commenting on Janmadhyasetaha. He gives the acronym like Tajjalan, Tasmat Jayate, Tasmin Liyate, Tena Niti Praniti Shvasiti iti. So that is the abstract thing. And the very concrete one, as you rightly said, Rashtradhwaja is, not a nation, but it is a pratika. Though we say na pratika na nahi saha, yet we require pratika. And from ethical background, I feel that, what Taittiriya Shikshavalli told us, Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava. So we have to see God in all these aspects. So that could be the entry point for the children to teach. Matrudevo, Pitrudevo, and Acharya Devo Bhava. And I remember in Mumbai University's first professor, H.D. Velankar, he used to say Shishya Devo Bhava. Why only Acharya? Even Shishya Devo Bhava, because Shishya is also Guru. So Guru Tattva or Deva Tattva, it's Tattva which you can find in every living being. So it was amazing. And thank you very much from on behalf of Chinmaya Vishwavidyapit, on behalf of all the participants, I would like to thank you for sparing your valuable time, especially on this Guru Purnima day, and blessing us with the Guru Tattva as well as Ishvara Tattva. And now we close by Shanti Mantra. Over to Subbu.
Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.